tribunals and talking to our MP as well. And there was also talk about a gap in transitional care and how transitions between children and adults isn't necessarily dealt with in the most stress-free way that it could be. So we were talking about the gaps really within that and the lack of choice that sometimes people are given when they're facing transitions. I think there was also kind of some examples given around the how kind of sometimes different needs aren't taken into account. So somebody gave the example of their insulin not being seen as a care need in the right kind of way. So just lots of different examples. But I guess the underlying thing was just how much time it takes and how much fight it takes, and how much you have to be, how much energy it takes to fight these systems, really. I hope that does it justice, group.
Thank you, Pippa. That was great.
Well done, Pippa.
We can already hear some themes coming up across the groups. Sarah from Imagineer, could we come to your group for some feedback?
Yeah, no
please?
problem. Apologies, I'm trying to multitask, so I'm trying to capture everything that's been shared. What would be really helpful is if you were the person doing the note taking, if you are able to share what you've just shared verbally to me, either on the chat function, or if you want to drop me an email, I've put my email in the chat, that would be really helpful. I just want to make sure I'm capturing all this really good stuff because it's going fast and I can't keep up with all of the comments always. So I know we're recording it as well, so I can play back. My group, we covered quite a lot of ground actually in a very short space of time. So some comments about, you know, when you deal with one local authority compared to another local authority, the experience can be very different. People sort of sharing experiences of having to go through several social workers before they actually get to one who seems to understand what they need to do. And often you have to have the experience of poor support from a social worker before you reach the heights of a social worker that understands what they're doing. It's almost like you're expected to go through that process of difficulty to actually access somebody who understands what they're doing. Some comments around feeling much more confident and able to self-advocate when you've had the support from an advocate who is skilled and experienced in the legal processes and can help you understand your rights. So and some advice around linking into your local disabled charities and groups, user-led groups, where they will have experience of the local authority area in that area specifically in their processes. Because often if you link into a national organisation, they'll be able to give general advice about what the law says, but they won't necessarily have that detailed knowledge about what the local processes are like. So that's a very helpful thing to do, speaking to people with lived experience who have already navigated those systems and processes themselves. We also talked about carers assessments and Care Act assessments, and preparing for transition came up, and really sort of the process of the social worker doing the assessment and gathering the information and taking as read what they hear from one person without coming back and checking with maybe family members or parents who know the person well to ensure that information is clear and concise and accurately reflecting the person's needs. So that can be a bit of a challenge as well. I'm just having a look. Some discussions around how when people are managing well with a good package in place, so you know, good number of support hours or good level of support, and other sort of therapeutic supports around them, which includes medication often to help manage different conditions, that can be viewed as the person doesn't need the support anymore because they're doing well. And how do we challenge that when people's budgets are being threatened to be cut because they're doing well? And how do we provide the evidence around making sure that budget cut doesn't happen? And then a little comment around housing and how that's a whole different area of specialism and knowledge, and the legal frameworks around housing as well, and how that intersects with local authority and your rights to support around things like housing benefit and council tax discounts or exemptions and things like that as well. There's so much people need to know about, and often people just don't know where to start in terms of getting that information and that support. So yeah, we talked a little bit about support brokerage as well, and how having somebody independent alongside the person to help navigate and guide through those processes can be really helpful. That's our group. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Anne, you were in a group. Who was taking the notes in your group, Anne?
I think is it Hasmukh Meter?
Yes.
Hasmukh, would you like to?
They've had to go, so they're saying they'll send them by email.
Okay.
I mean, I can say a few bits if you want.
That'd be great, Anne, thank you.
But I can't take notes. I did explain to you, I can't take notes, so it's just on my memory. So
Hasmukh is still here, Anne, if it was Hasmukh taking the notes.
Do you want to speak, Hasmukh?
Not responding now. Why don't you start, Anne, and we'll see if Hasmukh could join in.
Okay, so I started by giving an example of when I challenged the local authority and spoke about how I got them to come to my house and they got the paperwork out, and I said, you can put that away, I've got an agenda. And I gave all the 3 people in the meeting my own agenda. And that seemed to set the tone of the day. And I did have a success from that. Then we heard about Crystal's battle. I think I've got the right name. It's a young lady that's just moved into a new home, and how it was like a job for her, because every day she was either onto the housing people or to the local authority. And we all applauded her and said, well done for your tenacity. And we also spoke to, let me get this right, Julie, I'm sorry, I can't remember your husband's second name, Julie, spoke about how they're going round and round in circles, and they're having to fill in a care assessment every month, but it never results in anything. I asked them about having an advocate, and they said they've been told that they were far too intelligent to have an advocate. And that's all I can quite remember.
Thank you, Anne. That was a lot. Anyone from that group want to add anything else?
Only it's Jan here, just to say, I think that was a really good reflection of our group.
Thank you, Jan, much appreciated. Do we have one more group? I've lost count, Katie, of have we got one more to feedback?
We do, and I'm racking my brains on which
on a
group.
meeting.
Yeah, just from the breakout rooms, there was one group who hasn't spoken. Is there anybody who's scribing for that meeting, for that group? I've lost count as well. Was there any group that hasn't spoken? Oh,
there was one lady in my group who particularly wanted to say something. I don't know if she's still there or not.
Well, let's just open up. Meet Lal. Let's come to you. If anyone would like to talk, please put their hands up in one way or another, and we will come to you. Meet Lal.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Meet Lal. I'm a full-time carer for my partner. and she had a brain hemorrhage in 2013. English is not my first language. I would like to share my things with the local authorities from the big. I will do in short, but that is a very long story. From the beginning, like a care assessment, they did many times, and from 2016 to 2020, I was fighting to get a respite care for myself. They are giving me only 1 hour, 10 minutes for the whole week to do all friends and family, for all appointments for 4 peoples, for school appointments, everything I need to do in 1 hour. I was fighting to get this one. And also whenever they bring the social worker mostly come a new person, and then they do paperwork, blah, 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 and then they go. After a few weeks, or maybe 8-10 weeks, they change that, and the new one come. And then I asked them, we did that assessment before, and I told these things, these issues, and they said, oh, that's gone. That person is gone. You need to tell me. And then I tell them. And after a few weeks, they changed again. Like in 3 years, the many social worker come and goes, and changed. So after 4 years, I get my respite care. And for the Care Act and legislations, that's all for individuals, peoples, for general public. The local authority don't bother to do any legislations and the things. Since that, even from 2016, still things going on. Some issues still need to be solved. There are many complaint procedure going on. I did many complaints myself. Then I get help from. I ask help from local sources, which they provide advocate for people who doesn't have a resources. So they didn't give me help, because the same resources the local authority using, and they didn't give me help. Then I get a private solicitor, and now nearly 3 years private solicitor writing them and complaining them, nothing happening. With the private solicitors, because they are under a legal aid, and the client can't get proper outcome from these kind of solicitors, because they're not putting the whole efforts to get the result. Now 3 years issues still going on. So I want to share these things. And I was victim as well for discriminations. I'm Indian national, and my partner is Polish national. First, then when one time the case social worker came, and then care did some complaint, and they didn't do investigation. First thing, they came and see my face and see my partner's face, and then they took me to court, and then court take nearly a year to solve, and then they lose the case. And they said, because my partner doesn't have a capacity after brain hemorrhage, and she's bed-bound, and she need 24/7 care. Now I'm doing 24/7 care for her 8 years. And they said, this person and the child has a danger from me, and I need to be taken away from the home, and I shouldn't let them to meet. So this kind of social services doing. I have a very bad experience with the social services. Thank you for listening.
Meetlal, I'm sorry that you and your family have had such a bad experience. Thank you for sharing with us today. Sarifa, could we come to you, please?
Sorry, I just wanted to come in and say that for some of my cases, I had to use the Race Relation Act because they were offering my Asian women male carers, and that goes against our culture and our religion. And then because they refused, they would just say, oh, well, we can't give you the package if you don't accept the agency. Then I had to put in about the Race Relation Act and the Equality Act, and they are under the protective characteristic. I'm just bringing it up so that other people know that sometimes you have to use those kind of acts so to get what we want. But that's what I do when I'm advocating for people with English as a second language and people who have the specialist need around their culture and religion. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarifa. Much appreciated. Nadia.
Good news. Next week, Friday, first time I am going to the panel and they will be listening to my speech for 10 minutes.
Panel meeting. Panel. Did you hear that?
Good luck, Nadia. We will all be thinking of you. And it would be wonderful to hear how you got on next time we meet.
That assessment's been going nearly for 3 years. But they've allowed Nadia and an interpreter and a PA to go to the panel.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nadia. Crystal, can we come to you now?
Hi.
Hi.
I just wanted to share a little bit of my experience that I've had over the last couple of months. I've had social workers since I was 5 years old, and since I was 18, I've been dealing with them personally. And I think the biggest thing that I've experienced recently, kind of like a clarification, if you will, is that it feels as if social workers are protecting the system as opposed to supporting people to access that system and the things that they need to live their life. I've spent every day for 4 months arguing with social workers in regards to what I can have and what I should be able to use and things like this. And instead of supporting me and finding ways to work with or around the system, it seems to be that their focus has been on protecting it and how that they can avoid giving the things that you need and they don't share information. They don't send you to places where you can find different ways of gaining help. It's almost as if they go, you go to them with the problem and then they decide whether or not they're able to help you. But if they can't, they just kind of go, best of luck, and leave you to it. But I think the whole protecting of this system that is meant to help and aid doesn't quite make sense to me, and has been the biggest thing that I've experienced over the last couple of months.
Thank you, Crystal. There was lots of nods going on as you were talking around social workers being there to protect the system. So Iggy, we'll come to you next, and then we'll go to Blake. Iggy.
One of the issues, obviously, is the lack of support that people have, or places that people can turn to. I'm sure, as Alex will agree with me, that this need to be lots of centres of independent living funded, and there is just no funding. We're scraping for charity donations. One of the biggest problems I find, and this is, again, there are lots of organisations out there. There are Age UK, there are Scope. These charities have hundreds and millions of pounds. And again, go to Companies House, look at how many their directors are earning. Also look at who they work for. Because I've just looked in our area, and one of the main persons on the NHS, who's the chair for personalisation, is also a director for Age UK. Now, when you look at the actual amounts they're spending, our Age UK got a budget of over £1 million. They spent £8,000 on advocacy last year. It's when you start asking these questions. There are lots of organisations like Carers UK, all these places they're very good for tea and biscuits. You know, you'll go and speak to them, oh yeah, we understand. But when it comes to the technical stuff, actually helping and supporting you, that's where the lack of support is. And until we get that, we're going to continue to struggle.
Thank you, Iggy. Much appreciated. Blake, can we come to you now, please?
Yeah. Finish, right? Right, thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
So Blake's talking about lots of occasions when social workers have assumed he has no capacity. And he tries to just have a conversation to hope that they will understand that. And eventually he talks about his education. So he's got a degree and a master's. And when he says that, he then gets some kind of respect back about cognition. But one person actually said to him, well, why didn't you tell me easier? It would have been a lot easier for me to have understood had you told me that. And when he then explains, why should I have to tell you my educational history for you just to be respectful? They're offended.
Thank you, Blake. Again, lots of shaking of heads and jaws dropping to the floor. Although I think in this room today, we've all been in this system for many years, and it's amazing how our jaws can still drop to the floor. We are, oh, Iggy, let's.
Yeah, sorry.
I think we're going to give you the final words, Iggy. We're nearly at the end, so.
Okay. Thank you. One of the things under the Care Act, which nobody has ever used, which really surprises me, is there is a process called assisted assessments in the statutory guidance. This allows you to do your own assessment. Just imagine the amount of money that they could save. And I would say, when you get your 2-week diary and you give it to them, say, that is a copy of my assessment. Go and look it up under the statutory guidance. I am allowed to do my own assessment. And you have to then take it away and go and do what's necessary. Just imagine how much time and effort that would save. The other thing that really annoys me about social care and assessments, and again, you could save 50% of the cost just here. Why is it you have a trained social worker who does 4 years as a degree course, gets sent out, meets you, spends up to 2 to 4 hours doing your assessment. They've met you, they've seen you. For that assessment, then go to the office for someone else to approve. How does that make any sense when the person who's going to make the approval hasn't even met you or seen you? So they're going by just word. So surely, if they just trusted their social workers, they'd reduce the cost by half because it'd get done the first time. A lot of the waiting and a lot of the stress is because it's got to go to panels, it's got to go to managers. It doesn't have to. That's a process they've included just for themselves, just to make it much more difficult. There is no need for it. That's why I would strongly suggest self-assess, or do it with somebody like we mentioned here. You know, Stas said, work with other parents, sit down, work what's best, do the 2-week diary. You be your own advocate and reach out. Please, always reach out to somebody else. I know a lot of people have said the stress, post-traumatic, the issues they have, the worries, the tears. You're not on your own. Just reach out to someone. This is a great group, and I hope it will continue meeting. And we'll support, most importantly, support each other. Don't keep it all, but this is just a meeting. Have other opportunities to be able to talk, to be able to support, to share ideas. It's really important, especially when the report comes. You need to keep that momentum up, because a lot of organizations who've got lots of money, that the people in charge don't have that lived experience. The managers, they don't have the background to be able to say, this is our lives. I went to a social care meeting where they were talking about co-production. They spent half an hour trying to decide what to call the process. And I said, why don't you just call it My Life? Everybody was just like astounded. It's like, well, that's basically it. Your process is my life. Keep it simple. Okay. The power is there, and you have got everybody supporting you. It's because they see you as an individual, they use that against you. We're the authority, we're the organization. When you get people together and you say, I've spoken to my advocate, or there's a group of us, why is it Mrs. Jones down the road got this and I don't? That's when they start worrying, because you know you're informed, you've got the knowledge.
Thank you so much, Iggy. I think you've summed up the session and given us the final words beautifully. Big thanks to Iggy, Tess, and Anne for presenting this morning. And big thanks to all of you for being here and making your contributions, or just being here. We're really, really pleased to see you all. I'll be emailing everyone out afterwards with contact details, resources. Our next session is on Wednesday, 16th of March. And as Katie explained earlier, we're going to be talking money. We're going to be talking poverty. We're going to be talking fuel prices. We're going to be talking cost of living. We're going to be talking care charges. If any of you knows anyone who is really good on this topic, please do let us know and we'll get in touch with them to ask if they could present. But lots of love to you all. Many thanks. Take care and hope to see you very soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.